Okay, I would like to call this Planning Commission work session to order for Thursday, July 2nd, 2026. My name is Carl Johnson. I'm the chairman of the Clark County Planning Commission. Before we begin tonight, I would like to announce that our Planning Commission work sessions are hybrid, both in person and via WebEx. For the virtual and in-person members of the Planning Commission and staff, please ensure that your microphones are turned off or muted unless you are speaking. There will not be any public comment during the work session, but members of the public can watch or listen. Written testimony related to this evening's agenda items or other topics considered by the Planning Commission is encouraged and accepted at any times. This evening agenda is as follows. First, we'll deal with school, district CFP and the associated impact fees, then fire district CFP and the associated impact fees, then a comp plan chapter review on housing elements, chapter 2. And then finally, the last one will be transportation project list and evaluation criteria. So with that said, we can start off with the school CFP and associated impact fees. Amy?
Thank you. For the record, my name is Amy Wooten. I am with Community Planning, Planner in Community Planning. I'm joined this evening by Oliver Orjaco, who is a Community Planning Director. We will be briefing you on the hearings that will take place at your July 16th meeting related to School District Capital Facilities Plan and Impact Fee updates. Next slide, Jeff. There are 5 docket items listed on this slide that all relate to school district capital facilities plans and impact fee updates. Each school district's proposal is considered a separate docket item, and at your July 16th meeting will be presented to you one at a time for separate deliberation and voting. Tonight, however, I will be providing background information applicable to all of these proposals rather than discussing them individually. Next slide. So why does the county look at school district capital facilities plans and impact fee updates? Chapter 3670A of the Revised Code of Washington enables school districts to develop capital facilities plans and impact fee programs for new residential developments in order to offset the impacts of growth on school facilities. It further requires these plans and programs be reviewed and approved as part of the county and city comprehensive plans in which the school district is located. That is why the county reviews these types of requests for all school districts within Clark County. The minimum requirements of a school district's capital facilities plan are defined in RCW 3670A.0703 and Clark County Code Section 40.620.030A. A school district requesting impact fees shall submit to the county and update a plan at least every 4 years, a capital facilities plan adopted by the school board and consisting of the following elements: a standards of service description, which includes things like the number of students per classroom for different age groups, an inventory of existing facilities, a forecast of future needs, proposed locations and capacities of expanded or new facilities, a 6-year financing plan, and application of the impact fee formula that's set out in Clark County Code Section 4620.040. School district capital facility plans typically include multiple funding sources. Depending on district eligibility, districts pay for a portion of the costs of the capital facilities with funds provided by the state of Washington through the Common School Construction Fund. The remaining capital facilities must be raised locally through the passage of bond levies, which raise the property taxes of all residential property owners within a particular district, and or impact fees, which only apply to new residential development. Clark County Code Section 40.620.040 includes the calculation used for determining the maximum impact fee a school district can request. If any of you want to dig into the details of the calculation, you're welcome to contact me before the hearing and I can walk each of you through that calculation. Next slide, please. Right now, though, we're just going to talk about the cost of public facilities attributed to new growth over the next 6 years per household. This initial part of the calculation considers the number of children per household in the district and uses separate calculations for single-family and multifamily housing types. From this initial cost per household, the formula subtracts state match funds expected to be received from the state towards school construction costs. The formula subtracts a tax credit related to existing school district capital capital property tax levies, and then the formula subtracts an additional 15%. The calculation based on the codified formula determines the maximum impact fee amount a school district can request. As you review the capital facilities, your hearing materials accompanying each staff report, Exhibit A will include a copy of the district's capital facilities plan and includes the map that shows the district's work using the county's impact fee formula. Some districts may request the maximum impact fee amount allowed under county code. Others may request a lower amount. There will be a representative for the districts at the hearing who can answer questions about why the school district made certain decisions in their facility plans and impact fee request. She's here. Next slide, please. Leanne is graciously here. So this, next slide, please. No, the table. Thank you. This table summarizes the impact fee amounts for each of the school districts. For each district, you can see the existing fee and proposed fee for single-family and multifamily dwellings. On the right-hand side, you can see the difference and percent change between the current fee and the proposed fee amounts. You may notice a wide range in the proposed fee amounts on this table. Each school district is really different. There are large districts and small districts. Some are primarily rural, while others are primarily urban, and some are a mix. The main point of each district is that each district has different facility needs, and each district's capital facilities plan provides the background information and context behind these numbers. I will highlight a couple of examples of these differences that may stand out from this table. There are two districts, Evergreen and Washougal, that are requesting an impact fee amount of $0 because they are expecting either a decline in student population growth or very minimal growth, and they have minimal facility needs that they can cover through funding sources other than impact fees. The highest proposed impact fee amount for single-family homes is in Hawkinson, followed by Woodland. You can view these districts' capital facilities plan to get a sense of the student population growth and facility needs that have their financing plans, that the financing plans have included, and not only impact fee amounts, but also other funding sources they included in their financing plan to build the needed facilities. The highest proposed impact fee amount for multifamily homes is in Woodland, followed by La Center, and similarly, the details on the identified needs and financing plans are in the district's CFPs. Staff reviews each school district capital facilities plan and the associated impact fees for consistency with applicable Growth Management Act, Clark County Comprehensive Plan, and Clark County Code sections. Staff report for each district walks through the applicable criteria, evaluation, and findings. In staff's review, we found that all 5 of the proposed capital facilities plan updates and impact fee requests are consistent with the criteria we evaluated them against. Next slide. This slide is just being shared for reference only so that you have impact fee amounts for all the districts in the county. The school district information on this slide is not proposed to be changed. Planning Commission members have requested this information in the past to help see the broader landscape. Next slide. Thanks for your time. I'll stop there. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Oliver is also available for questions. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Haroon. Okay, so question on a little bit on the calculation, but So typically, and this is kind of what it looks like in Hawkinson, they're assuming that the multifamily won't have as many kids involved versus the single family as far as their impact on their calculation. Is that why we're seeing the drop there?
I'm going to let Leanne answer those questions.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Leanne Bremer. I'm with Miller Nash, and I represent all the Clark County school districts on their capital facilities planning and impact fee calculation. So good question. Hawkinson is primarily a rural district. In fact, there's no cities in Hawkinson School District. So you're right. They don't have very many multifamily units, and there's not a lot planned in the next 6 years. So each district is unique in that way, and there's so many variables in the formula. So when you plug in all the numbers, that's why you get such a wide variety of results. So yes, they don't have very many apartments in the Hawkinson School
So
District.
I guess because the follow-up to that is the multifamily for Woodland, goes 132% up.
Right.
And so I'm just seeing the disparity between, the change. And so why do they look demographically at their specific community and how many kids are coming out of,
Exactly. Yes.
like maybe in Vancouver, the apartment units don't produce that many kids. I know Evergreen got in trouble with that a few years ago, or they had to change their calculation. Is that what we're seeing, or is that?
Yeah, so there's what we call a student generation rate or student factor. So that is how many students are typically generated from a single family home or a single apartment. And we calculate that for each district. And remarkably, it is so different district to district. So in Woodland, when the consultants calculated the student generation rate, there were more students coming from apartment units than there were from single family units, so there's a higher student generation rate. That's why you see a higher fee for the multifamily unit. And then Hawkinson, of course, I just explained, they don't have that many units to have that many students generated from those units.
And then what is the percentage on the development community that you're looking at per, is it, they assume we need $40,000 a student and 20,000 needs to come from a developer, or through SDCs, or what does that look like?
That doesn't really factor in a precise mathematical way in the formula. The law says that impact fees cannot fund 100% of a new facility. There has to be public money to also contribute towards that facility. There's no required ratio between private and public funding, but typically you would see schools are very expensive, as you'll see in the capital facilities plan, and the districts need to pass bonds to build a new school. There's no question about that. So a majority of the funding will come from public money. I don't have an exact percentage to give you because it's going to vary district by district.
Is there a range? Because I know when we had this conversation before,
Yeah.
it was with the Parks Department with the city, and your thing, I think, was 92% came from the development side, and then 8% came from the city side.
I'll see if I can bring that to the hearing in a couple of weeks. That's a really good question, and just for each of the plans that will be before you, see if I can come up with that percentage.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is Oliver, Planning Commissioner Harun. In the case of Woodland, this will, and Liam Bremer, attorney representing the school district, can agree with me that in Woodland, the portion of the Woodland School District that is in the county is relatively small. So this impact, if I may say so, will primarily be in Cowlitz County, where majority of the Woodland school boundary is. Very little multifamily is in the county that this impact fee will apply, because the portion of the county that is in Woodland School District predominantly is single family, if I may say so. And I think Leah will agree. I agree with Leon Bremer's observation, in Hawkinson, very little apartments. It's all rural district, Hawkinson School District. Similarly in Barrow Ground, except that Barrow Ground School District, I don't know if we have a map, also includes some portion of the area that comes closer to 179. So Leanne is concerned, is accurate. This formula is just based on student rate, and typically student generating from multi-family are much smaller compared to single family district. And when you compare the total impact fee that is in the, let's say the private, I will be surprised if that number is much smaller, because when you're looking at bond and the construction of a school, you're looking at in the millions. I doubt that the ratio will be, the public share or the private share will be much higher than the public, because you're also looking at state funding and then the bond, which the resident will approve or not approve. So that's what I wanted to add. I used to review this information in the past and fully understand what's going on when you look at their capital facilities plan and the associated impact fees and how that is all calculated, and the public and private share of that.
Is the county portion just that Horseshoe Lake loop? And so it's just that small little section that pretty
Yes.
much it's all built out, right?
Pretty much there's some vacant land in there, but none of that is planned to be multi-family.
Okay. Yeah, just seems like a small thing to go after, because are they not allowed to charge impact fees in Calhoun County?
They're not, but the city of Woodland obviously will have impact fees. And in fact, the city is considering the same plan that you are. So
Okay.
that's in process.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I would like some clarification. This is Ron Barca. When we calculate for the comp plan and we look at population allocation per household, we have a set formula that we use on how many people per multifamily dwelling and how many people per residential single family. Did I hear that the school districts have their own formula about how many people go in the dwellings?
Yes, when it comes to, and Leon can verify, when it comes to the number of students being generated from single family and that from multi-family, it's different when the school district do their own population numbers and student generation from various housing type. In the county, you're looking county-wide, and what we do is persons per household. We use average of, in the past, we've looked at census information and indicating that the average household in Clark County is 2.66. We know that that's average. In the rural area, it's like 3 point something. This is all census information, but no, when we look at the household countywide, we rely on either on census information or American Community Survey, or we look to the State Office of Financial Management or Commerce to see what the forecasting in the future. That's how we looked at it. But in the case of schools, they look at student generation from multi-family and single family, because that is how they assess how much to be charged for various housing type.
So, yeah, so just to build on that, so the county, for their purposes, has number of people per household. We calculate number of students per household, which is obviously going to be less than the number of people per household. So you will see in the formula, for instance, odd numbers like 0.3 high school students per single family resident. So it's going to be less than 1 in a lot of cases. So that's how to determine how many students come or have an impact on or coming from new housing that has an impact on the schools, is to do that generation rate.
As far as the quality of data that they have,
Mhm.
I'm assuming the schools have some pretty accurate data because they have addresses,
That's exactly right.
every student, and they can say, these are all at apartment complex, these are single family.
Yes, that's how they,
Is that how that's?
they
looked at?
do. They hire consultants to help them with that, but they have their enrollment, say they have 500 students in elementary schools, and they're able to know where these students live. And then they could just do the math and figure out what's that rate.
So I guess this kind of begs the question for me. If their data is more granular, have we ever spent any time looking at the discrepancy between what the school districts are looking at for population base versus what we're doing as a generalization?
No, that's just my simple answer is no, because we are not doing what the city is doing. However, when we look at, okay, we are not building only single family, we are building also multi-family. So we take the total. They are more looking at, okay, where are they seeing differences? So because they charge a different fee for multi-family because of that high student generation rate versus multi-family, they make that distinction. In the county, we're not assessing impact fees. We don't make that distinction. The impact fee we charge is only for parks and transportation. The impact fee for the school is passed through. They use the same formula that is in code to differentiate the two between multi-family and single family, because they have to come up with what is that fee to be. So the student generation from those two housing type gives them that opportunity to, and how the formula is set up gives them the opportunity to make that distinction.
Yeah, certainly. It's their product and they're trying to understand who the service is for. I guess I'm just thinking that there's a opportunity for us just to bounce our numbers against that, to have a clarity on whether we are over or underestimating what density of population we're already achieving based on dwelling count.
I wouldn't say that we are, because we're given a population, we don't know. We're given a population, we don't know the type of folks that will move in here. You know, it may be folks with children, it may be those that are anticipating to have in the future. We just don't know until, remember, the population that we are given, we assume some natural growth, we assume immigration, but we just have the total. We just don't know what's happening. At the granular level, the school district, as Leah was explaining, they have their own data on the number of students that are coming from apartment because of address. That doesn't mean that, in an apartment, you may have maybe one kid. The same may be true for multi-family, but you don't have multi-family all over a school district. You have more single family, and you may see more students coming from the single family just because of the number of single family in that district versus apartment, where you may have one or less kid coming from apartment unit. It doesn't mean that those with kids doesn't live in apartment, but the number is relatively small. They make that distinction. We just assume on a county-wide what is the persons per household, and that is how we estimate the number of units. We do make a distinction on how we zone single-family and multi-family to accommodate the growth we are planning for. We just don't go back and say, okay, how many folks come from multi-family? That is left for school district to use that information to come up with the distinction between how much to charge in single-family and multi-family.
Any other questions online or? Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Thank you. I'll see
Oh,
you
go
in a
ahead.
couple of weeks.
Let's go with District CFP with Bart.
Good evening, everyone. This is Bart Catching, Community Planning. You can go to the next slide, Jeff. Thank you. Apologize if I'm a little clunkier than Amy. My laptop won't connect to the network at the moment, so I have the iPad here and the slideshow on my computer. So this is along the same vein as what we were just talking about with Amy and the school district impact fees, but this is a separate project for the fire districts. I don't know who on the commission, no, Carl was here. No, Brian was here. I'm not sure. Jack was here. A couple of years ago, we did the initial code updates for county code to put the framework in place so that fire districts in the county could move forward with impact fees should they want to. We didn't have a code section up until that point. So we did that project, and so that's now part of county code. And we have a formula and code sections very similar to parks and schools, and to allow the fire districts that want to assess impact fees to move forward with it. However, because it's new, even though the fire districts themselves have worked up capital facilities plans on their own for their own benefit and to provide as part of the comprehensive plan in the past, they weren't used to calculate impact fees. And so we didn't go through this same regular process like schools has done. So now we have 4 districts that have elected to request impact fees, and therefore we're starting the process with you all to look at their capital facilities plans through separate hearings, just like Amy alluded to with the school districts, and then once the capital facilities plans are reviewed and this body makes a recommendation to the council, then the council will be able to fold the capital facilities plans into the comp plan update, which is partly why we're doing it now, because the comp plan is open, so to speak, while we're doing this. And then they'd go on to a regular update cycle similar to schools and whatnot. Next slide, please, Jeff. So just a little recap why we're talking about this and why we're doing it the way we're doing it. So the fire protection facilities, the actual brick and mortar facilities, as well as the durable apparatus, like pump trucks, ladder trucks, certain pieces of technology that they have are considered public facilities and can be funded partially through impact fees, similar rationale as we were just talking about with the school districts. And so, as I just said, we moved through the code adoption process in late 23 and early 24. So now we have it as part of our county code to be able to bring capital facilities plans to you all and then to the county council. They have the basic criteria that they need to contain, just like other capital facilities plans. This is a creature of state statute. And the facilities plans that are linked on the project page for those 4 districts all have all of these elements in them. The inventory, the list of the projects that they have proposed. Those projects are tied to their forecasted future needs of the district. Then there's a financing plan, which goes into a district-specific discussion about where their income streams come from. This is tied to their budgets that all the districts do each year. And then there's a procedure for a periodic review and update. So that's on a minimum multi-year cycle. And then they can come back as often as one every year if situations change, but I doubt that would happen very often. Next slide, please, Jeff. So this again is what I was just talking about, that the fire districts need to have their capital facilities plans approved before they can go through the process of negotiating an intergovernmental agreement with the county and then having the fees added to the formula for new development. These are the high level sections of state code, and then our area of the county code where the fee language comes from. Next slide, please. This is just using the same type of table that Amy had, although it's much more straightforward because this is brand new. This is information pulled directly from the approved plans that the districts, the fire districts have provided to the county. Again, the purpose of this discussion is to solicit the type of inquiries that you all might have, not to go through every part of their formula. You can look at the plans linked on the project page and then provide specific questions to me, and I will try to answer them. And if I can't, I will forward them to the fire district chiefs, who are the ones who I've been dealing with. I will say that when you look at the plans that we're bringing to the hearing for the 4 districts, they're all formatted very similarly. That is by design. Fire District 3, under the leadership of now Chief Chris Drone, has been spearheading this effort for several years. And he has worked with their attorney to make a plan that they feel is solid and meets state statute and local code. And then they have agreed as a group, these 4, to move forward together. I don't want you all to think that if you have questions about one, that you're questioning them all. That's not the case. They have just chosen to come together as a group and have their plans be similar because the Fire District 3 did the initial work and they had their attorney look at it. That's my understanding. So the way the formula is written for the fire districts is a little bit more straightforward than the schools. It is just based on projected number of units and the type of capital facilities that they are projecting that they will need, whether it's 1 building, 2 buildings, 1 apparatus, 3 apparatus. It varies from district to district. And then it's literally an algebra equation tied to how many types of housing units are projected through the data same data that we use for the comp plan. That's what we gave to them to craft this. And so the only outlier that you might see there is District 10 is quite a bit more than the other ones. And when you look at the small population that District 10 has, and then the very small projected amount of new housing tied to them, that's what the formula spits out. I mean, it's not a discretionary thing. It's just you take the projected housing types and put it in. So with that, I didn't have anything else in particular, but I am not an accountant. I've never claimed to be one. I'm here to answer the questions that I can, and if I can't, I am a conduit of information to go back to the fire districts and ask them and make sure that you guys have all the information that you need at the hearing in 2 weeks.
Questions?
I have a question. Thank you for the presentation. Being a retired fire guy, I noticed District 10, their fees include sprinkled cost. Do you know if the other 3 districts require sprinklers for all new construction?
Their plans don't make that distinction. District 10 was the only plan that broke it out more. And they also, I didn't bother to make this particular chart, twice as large, but when you open up the District 10 plan, you'll see that they have non-sprinkled costs estimated in there as well. So it's not a requirement, like, for instance, I guess City of Camas, everything's required to be sprinkled, is my understanding. It's not like that. It's just they are allowed to have both estimates, and they chose to do it. But that is a question that we can bring to the hearing, and I'll forward on to Chief Drone about whether the other districts chose not to do that for some reason. I don't know.
Okay. In conjunction with that, based on your answer, do you happen to know if the fee then for District 10 non-sprinkled is the same amount?
It's slightly higher.
Okay.
And when you go into the project page and look at their plan, there's their chart
Okay.
shows it. I just thought that was the most relevant, simple one to put into this simple framework that we have.
Yeah. Agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Jack.
Art.
Ron, sorry.
Yeah, that's quite all right. So working with what Mark started, this is where I was going to go with it as well. I think we need to see the non-sprinkled if it is genuinely available.
Yeah.
Because one of my concerns is the idea of the overall cost of putting a sprinkler system in.
Oh, okay.
Weighed against the idea of not putting it in. It seems to me if the district is really trying to get the standard of sprinkled housing as something that they want to make sure that the impact fees reflect an improvement to their financial condition by doing it. Otherwise, what you end up seeing is somebody weighing the cost and not sprinkling because it's just bottom line cheaper to go in. But for the long run of the district and for the occupants, it's obviously something that we would like to see continued as a standard.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. And one thing that came to mind as you were talking, and I'm thinking about District 10 and Amboy and Fargo Lake and how rural it is, that they might have included that because of their longer response times, because there's so much more driving involved. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think looking at that, because it's a significant amount of money, but the cost of putting a sprinkler system in is going to be a very significant impact to the cost of building the home to begin with.
It is, and I think that's a conversation that also happens with builders as well, because it can affect insurance and things that aren't the county's purview, but
Right.
are important.
Right. And building off of that, then in District 10, I know that there's not much in the way of commercial out there,
Right.
but
Very little.
$2.49 per square foot, a 10,000 square foot place is going to run them $20,000, 20,000.
Well, and again, that's why I would, it's not the place of this meeting to peel back the hood and do the math on every single one, but to let you guys know what we're looking at, and then you can look at the plans on the webpage, and if you have any questions that we can appropriately forward to the districts before the hearing, and I can get information back to you, great. Otherwise, we can ask those questions because the representatives will be at the hearings.
Yeah. So I guess in that regard, knowing where District 10 is, I'm kind of interested in a zoning aspect, under what conditions and where would commercial buildings get built?
In the commercial centers primarily,
Yeah.
which there are,
Yeah.
are
If they
the rural centers, I mean.
Rural
yes.
centers. Yeah. So we're talking a few places that,
Comanche, Amboy,
yeah.
Right.
Burger Lake. Yeah, not much.
Yeah. Okay.
Just clarify, I'm going to push back a little bit on you
Sure.
so he said, so this is out of the code of what we're required to review. And it says whether the level of service standard be, reasonable consistent, whether the district appropriately applied the formula set out in section, and it showed, and then you click
Yes.
on the hyperlink to the section, it's just like ABC, right? So fairly simple thing, but I would like to see the detail, because I can't appropriately consider like what they're actually, what they're charging, how much they're charging, is it reasonable, without actually seeing what they're proposing,
Sure.
and then what those costs associated, and then percentage that they're trying to recover from development versus the aggregate.
Absolutely.
Because again, like you're out in Amboy or District 10 or something like that, and you're building a 10,000 square foot facility, which maybe it's more just like a pole barn type scenario, but you have a little office, something like that. And then it's a $25,000 impact fee. That might be grossly inappropriate, but or maybe completely appropriate. I don't know. But that's kind of my.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, I would encourage all of you to look at the plans themselves. They're pretty easy to read. And like I said at the outset, luckily they're all formatted the same. So once you find the information in one, you can see they all look the same. So they just have different information because they basically used a template, which is helpful for reviewing. And you can see the exact question you're asking, Jack, is how they've allocated the percentage of new development and their fees to it. And it varies between the districts because some of them have more robust levies than others. And so there's different math that goes into each one. And that's why they are not a cookie cutter.
Is that information on our link?
We have project pages set up so that I don't know how we usually provide that information.
If I believe, this is Oliver, I believe that the capital facilities plan are already posted on the Planning Commission meeting and materials. So if you go there, you will see for July 15th, I believe,
16th,
or
yeah.
16th.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be able to see that. Yeah, it's already up there.
Yeah.
So
It's just not our.
Yeah.
no,
I wish it'd been on for tonight, but at least it's there. Yeah.
yeah, it is there for you to review.
Thank you.
And I am not on vacation next week. Please forward any questions you have to me and I will, and the chiefs are very responsive. They want to work with everybody. So
Bart, I have another question.
yes,
I think in your presentation, you talked about capital facilities and you mentioned capital equipment. You
Mhm.
mentioned trucks and so forth.
Yeah.
So are we in a situation where impact fees can go for capital equipment and not just facilities? Because I know in other impact fees are dedicated for facilities.
So the way the state code is written for fire districts, it specifically says apparatus is considered a
Okay.
public facility. Yeah. And so the large, expensive, durable $1 million trucks that they have to buy and depreciate over, 20 years or whatever, those are a capital facility, and they
Okay.
can include them in their plan. And you'll see that. And some of them need a couple and some of them don't need much. It just depends.
Any other questions? Online? Okay, Bart, thanks.
Thank you,
Have a great
guys.
weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And finally, thank you, Bart, and you can. This is the first time that the county council is allowing for fire impact fees. As Bart indicated, the amendment to the code came to the planning commission for those that were here then and did approve it. Assessment of fire impact fee is not new. I believe the city of Barrow Ground do assess fire impact fee, as well as maybe Washugo and maybe Commerce. This is now giving the fire district the opportunity to assess impact fee if they so choose. As Bart indicated, majority of these fire districts are in the rural area, but they provide a valuable safety and other services to those that live out there. You look at the map, you can see areas where there are no districts, but that is not what is before you. Just want to make that observation. We can now go to the next item, which will be
Comp plan, chapter review, housing element. That would be you, Oliver.
okay. I'll do that. Let's go to the housing chapter. I'll have Amy to go over the housing chapter. Don't want to take anything away from my staff who are working on each of these issues or chapters. But the changes on, you have seen the goals and the policies before. We promise that we will come after we have the selected preferred plan chosen by council. We'll go back and look at the each of the chapters and see what changes, if any, needs to be made, updates to the tables. But Amy, take it away.
Thank you, Oliver. Again, for the record, Amy Wooten, planner with Community Planning. Jeff, if you could bring up the
The housing chapter.
housing chapter. Perfect. So tonight, we're just going to review the changes that staff is proposing to update the housing chapter with the comprehensive plan update. Many of the changes that you'll see when you review the document are grammar corrections and syntax updates, just to kind of improve the readability. We're updating all of the table data. There are 13 tables in the chapter. Those tables contain demographic information, housing statistics relating to population trends, age, ethnicity, the number of households in the county and the makeup of those households, income, et cetera. In order to update those tables, staff used the 2020 United States Decennial Census and American Community Surveys, housing market data provided by the University of Washington Center for Real Estate Research, Washington Department of Commerce, and the Office of Financial Management. Other partners that we engaged to update chapter include the Vancouver Housing Authority and the Clark County Treasurer. They both provided information regarding county funding sources for affordable housing and subsidized housing. Can you go to page 13 for me, Jeff? On 13, the section covering county funding for affordable housing has been updated to describe current use of the Community Development Block Grant and home funds and the use of the 1% sales tax that will generate approximately $6.5 million a year that is slated for affordable housing and mental health programs. And then 18, Jeff. We also, based on requirements in the Growth Management Act, added a new section covering racially disparate impacts and displacement. This new section addresses impacts to historically vulnerable persons and provides statistical data based on the county's housing options and study plan that evaluated housing policies and how regulatory barriers affect access to housing for moderate, low-income, and very low-income populations. Page 19. No major changes were made to the summary section. It's just a few. And then on page 28 is where the goals and policies section begins. We presented this section to Planning Commission on July 10th of 2025, and we are not proposing any new changes. Those are the same changes that we brought before you last July. So if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions?
Yeah, this is Alicia LaDuke Montgomery. Do we track impacts to folks with disabilities? I saw a section on special needs and I wondered if we also look at disabilities.
I believe that the special needs includes disability.
Okay, thanks.
Brian, do you have a question?
I did. Hey, Amy, starting on page 28, are the green highlights new and different from what we saw last July?
The highlights may be different. Oliver, was that a direction to highlight new policies?
It was meant to highlight what, for example, came out of the climate bill that was not included here. If you see the 2.1.8, where it says RES, it's just highlighting that we may have omitted this particular, adding it as resilience policy as a result of the climate bill, things of that nature. And I think that's what these are. And we are required to plan for emergency housing or emergency housing shelter and permanent supportive housing. Those are some of the things that was omitted when you saw it last time. So we are required to go back and highlight those things. That's why those are in green.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure because Amy said nothing had changed, but yet these are changes that we want to make sure we address.
Yeah, just highlighting those that are in green. That's the reason that it was omitted, and we just inserted that because we are required to. And as Amy indicated, I know the question have been asked before. Not only is the local government doing something about affordable housing, the council took a councilmatic action as a result of the new bill that the legislature passed. Councilmatic action means the council took that action from the dais, and county will now be assessing 0.1 sales tax going forward, and that's what Amy indicated will generate about 6.5 to, don't want to exaggerate, but 6.5 to maybe 7 million yearly, and that will, the council will make decisions when applications are made to support project that gets to housing affordability. Just want to add that on. but that was done, doesn't require the vote of the people. The county took that action. That is why I use the term council might take action. But the legislature provided that opportunity for council, local jurisdictions to do so.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one on page 29, and we did bring this up when we reviewed this last July, but I see that no changes were made by staff. So I just wanted to bring them up again. And let's see, in the, yeah, I'm going to give you a number here. Page 29, Article 2.1.9. It's talking about housing affordability and reducing the impacts of costs. It just seems like they've left out a number of areas that could reduce the impact of costs, like reducing impact fees that we are looking at raising here, would have helped reduce the cost of a home, reducing the tax burden on those income bands that would allow them more funds to buy those homes. And the other one I wrote down was, curtail the energy code. The policies of the energy code are also driving up the costs of homes substantially in businesses. So it seems like the one thing they did was reduce the parking requirements, which makes our neighborhoods look just like third world countries with cars parked everywhere. In my neighborhood, I can hardly walk down some of the streets because cars are parked all over the sidewalks and in the streets. But I get why we reduced the parking requirements, but just wanted to throw that one out. So reducing impact fees, reducing tax burdens, curtailing energy code policies, or curtail them. And then I have one more on 2.1.11. So it says also
2.1.11.
inequities in access to home ownership opportunities for communities of color. And when I went through the tables on table 2.13 on race and ethnicity, I wondered if the word color would be better replaced with the BIOPC groups, the Black, Indigenous, and People of Color groups, because all of those groups were substantially below the median income for the county. So, just wanted to throw that out. It's not just one group, but it's a much larger group that should that have historic inequities at this time.
Sure, we can make that inclusion or more broad if that's the recommendation of the Planning Commission on that particular policy. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to say that came out of the both the Housing and the Climate Bill Act, and that was the recommendation that came out of the work of the advisory group. But if that's the recommendation of the Planning Commission, we can certainly make that change. What I will add, and that's what I've said to other internal departments that have looked at the climate bill and raised some concern, I told them I'm not going to make any changes that the group that worked on the climate bill made. Those have to be done through the hearing process, and the council approving whatever came out of that process. But internally, staff would not be changing what the group recommended.
So Oliver, just for clarification then, so if we make a motion to just change the wording of communities of color to the BIPOC community, you're going to say you can't?
I'll take your recommendation to council.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay, that's perfect. And then page 33, 2.8.1. I struggled with this when we reviewed it last July and still do again. Um, it's 2.8.1 and the fourth line down, it's just housing, excuse me. While affordable housing leaves residents more resources to spend on resilience building essentials, and a couple of items under the such as air conditioning, air purification, food, and healthcare. I just don't see how food and healthcare is a building essential. And I'm just wondering if there shouldn't be a period after essentials and strike the whole line, air conditioning, air purification, food, and healthcare, because there's the list could go on. There's a lot of ways to build a home besides just those 4 items that would save the homeowner money or give the homeowner more funds to do other upgrades to their home. So again, maybe that'd be a motion I might want to bring up at the hearing then.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, noted.
This Commissioner Herron, I would argue like when we were jumping back like 2.1.9, when we were looking at the list, I would love to encourage the development of some kind of mechanism for accountability, because we have, we should reduce permit timelines, which continually increase every year. And everybody's like, yeah, permitting is a real problem, but there's no teeth in anything. There's no language. They're just like, it's like they're trying to and they say implement online permitting. That is proven not to help anything get faster. So I don't know. It's like, I think there's some opportunities there. I mean, we're talking about housing affordability and, some of that stuff. I think there's more cost in just a couple little lines here than I think than the average public realizes. And, I have a single family house that's cost me $75,000 in wait time, just on permits for no reason. So, yeah, so I would like to maybe think about some of that stuff and bring some motions to the table.
I will also add a good observation. I will also add that streamlining our permitting process comes up all the time. The legislature have made some changes to our processing time of local government and cities. I will assure you that the county, and you can get that information from community development, they are exceeding that state required timeline to review and process application. I can assure you that you can get that from from community development. What is the average time when someone submit application there? Like I said, the state mandated in some cases no more than 80 days, 90 days to get an application out or so forth, and they are exceeding that. I give them credit for what they're doing. They provide opportunity for folks to submit online. I can only say, because some of us here used to review, do current planning. If you submit a plan that requires so many red lines, it's going to come back to you. So we want you to submit something that meets the code, and you just don't draw things over the line. I'm not being defensive, but you just don't draw stuff and submit it online. Our engineers will look at it and send it back. So you have to go both ways. But I will assure you that the timeline that this legislature have put in place and require local government to review and approve application in terms of streamlining our timing process. The Clark County assists that, and we have been giving kudos, community development in particular, not my shop, in doing so. So whatever you like to propose, I will tell you that the county cannot be more restrictive than what the legislature allows.
Oliver, part of it's because I've been going through a permitting process, right? So I want to push back a little bit on let's applaud ourselves for beating a state timeline when we look at permits for housing and it creates real costs and real significant damage to families that aren't able to work. I submit a set of prints to Camus, 2 weeks, I can get a permit. La Center, it's down to 3 days at one point, but now it's like a couple weeks. The county, 4 months, 5 months. So same set of plans. So what I'm striving for from a community base is let's push the bar of excellence higher. And we have jurisdictions that are doing it faster and better. Let's start to do that. Because when we start because we have all these conversations about housing affordability. I mean, I'm like 4.5 months on a single family house right now with the city of Vancouver. It's not better there. It used to be standard 2 weeks, like wrote standard 2 weeks. I could always get a city, permit, but processes have changed. They've had more checkbooks or, more check marks. So when we talk about this stuff and these big plans and these big policies, it matters what we're doing on the back end and how it's affecting housing affordability. And so we need to be aware at senior staff level that we're not doing a good job just because the bar is set so low from the state. And that's my frustration now, right? Because I have guys that are trying to eat and can't. But I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, we're doing great, when I don't think we are.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just making an observation that the timeline that the legislature recently passed and looking back and say, how well is the county meeting or exceeding that timeline? That our record shows that the county is exceeding that state mandated timeline to process application for development. That is the point I'm making, that because this question comes up often when April 4th was here, and I'll give her credit, she's done excellent job in customer service and making sure that we are exceeding that state mandate. That's why I made the comment that we cannot be more restrictive than what the state allows. So where you are meeting, when the state says you have to process an application, let's say within 45 days, and it's taking 50, we are not doing a good job. I agree with you. But when you are exceeding that timeline, it has to be recognized that you are exceeding that timeline. That's all I'm saying, because the state agencies do collect information on how well are we implementing the rules put in place in terms of how quickly we send application or review our application and send it out. I'm not disagreeing with you, but in terms of this policy, it has been in the books for a long time, but the only way you can implement it is do the best you can to as you know, Planning Commissioner Haroon, every application is different, circumstances are different, wetland issues, stormwater issue. So I don't know what the issues may be on a particular application. Been more than 10 years since I've done current planning, but having said that, all I'm saying is that when the legislature passed new bill, I think this was maybe a year or two ago, and they put those stipulated timeline to get an application out, that the Clark County, to my knowledge, is exceeding that. Is something we don't have to ignore. But could there be more improvement? Why not we become more efficient than those timelines that the state put out? That's all I'm saying. So I don't disagree with you, but it's good to also recognize when the county is exceeding prescribed timeline, unless we have to go back to the legislature and said it should be 2 weeks, it should be 3 weeks, then we'll see how we can make that work. If it means more resources, more staff, whatever the case may be, that is really my point, not to disagree with you.
Chair.
Yes, go.
I'd like to, I guess, take this opportunity then to talk as far as the Planning Commission itself goes. From what Brian brought up at 2.1.9, we have the opportunity when we hear this to inject what we believe would be genuine actions that could help with the addressing the cost barrier. And staff is the ones who's got this put in here. So I don't think we have an adversarial relationship about wanting to lower the cost of building. But I think it's up to us to be innovative on what we put in, on how we choose to try and give a multitude of ways to accomplish that task. So let's take the next couple of weeks to think about what we want to put in it and spend the time during the hearing and really have a good, robust discussion about putting stuff in. And I don't think there's going to be a situation where we can put in too much stuff. I think the situation is when we get too specific that we're going to box ourselves into a corner. So let's come up with some ideas. And I think coming back to what you said, Jack, there's an opportunity to survey the entire county, all the jurisdictions, and look at best management practices for the idea of getting permits done and do it in a more collaborative way to try and pick the best that's available and help everybody get a little bit better on that. But I think there's plenty of discussion that can happen here, and we can bring a lot of ideas to this, just this one part of it, and really give a good menu of ways for us to help drive down the cost. Because we already know from Department of Commerce, they're already looking for the missing middle. They're looking for entry-level housing. There's very little that we can do that's going to get us further in generalized discussion and parking spaces. We're going to have to get more specific, but I don't think what we want to do is give them the entire formula. Otherwise, we're boxing people in as not having choices. So that's what I'd like to add.
Thank you, Ron. Any other questions, comments? Okay, with that said, we will move on to our final section, which is transportation project list with Susan and Harrison. Thank you, Amy.
Okay, I will go ahead and get started. So good evening, Planning Commission. For the record, my name is Harrison Houston. I'm a transportation planner with Community Planning, and I'm here today to provide you all with a glimpse of what we will be proposing for the 20-year Transportation Capital Facilities Plan, or CFP. And before I get started with the specifics related to some of the changes that we will kind of go over with you tonight, I did want to just preference our presentation with a few important notes. So first, I will just mention that the contents of this project list is still very much in draft form. Due to our timing, it's been prepared using the DEIS land use alternative 2 and the regional travel demand model results that were completed in the fall of 2025. So we used the alternative 2 as a placeholder to be able to provide you all with some information before our July 23rd submission date. And because it was the closest alternative to the preferred alternative that was recommended by you all in January 2026. So since then we've received the finished kind of model forecasting results based on the council's preferred selected in April 2026, about 2 weeks ago. So our consultant is right now working on interpreting those results, kind of reconciling them with this draft list and making those necessary changes for our next work session. Or we'll have those hopefully by our next work section on July 16th. Even though we did use kind of a different land use alternative for these initial findings, from what we've been told by our consultants and RTC, who maintains the regional forecasting model, the differences that you'll see between kind of the final results from the preferred will be there'll be very minor differences. So for the most part, it'll remain the same from what you see tonight. And then kind of second, we just kind of want to know, while we do call it our 20-year transportation CFP, we are not kind of required to complete every project on this list within a 20-year timeframe. We use that 20-year because that's the 20-year planning horizon that we're really looking at. And really the requirements within GMA, we're required to analyze and assess our transportation system through this process for current and future needs. We're required to identify those needs, and then we're required to identify the specific actions that we'll take to address those needs. So this project list in itself fulfills those requirements. And then the kind of last note that I'll mention before we kind of jump in. So there are just a few elements of this list that's just missing for today. So we're currently working on including those in a future draft, but the elements that you'll see that are missing are the cost estimates and any type of prioritization. So we'll briefly touch on our proposed approach to prioritize the projects towards the end of the presentation. But just to reiterate, we wanted to kind of provide this list today to provide enough lead time and as much time as possible to digest all this information. So Jeff, if you can go to the next slide. So as a review, the current adopted transportation CFP was last adopted in 2020 with an amendment in 2022 to adjust the project cost estimates for inflation and update the traffic impact fee rates. From the existing CFP project list, we are proposing to remove 3 large capital road projects and 11 intersection projects. The large capital projects are all projects that have been constructed over the last 5 years. And some of the intersection projects have been either constructed or improved. Some were annexed. However, I would say for the majority of them, we are no longer seeing the PM peak volumes that would suggest the need for signalization or other mitigation. And at that time, Jeff, I might ask you just to toggle over to the PDF that I sent over to you. So we didn't provide this in the meeting materials in preparation for tonight, but we did want to be able to go over with you all the projects we are recommending to remove as of right now. And so, as I mentioned, for the roadway segment projects, Northeast 99th Street, that project was completed in 2024. Northeast 10th Avenue from 149th to 154th, that was completed in the 2022 timeframe. 119th Street, Northeast 87th Avenue to Northeast 112th Avenue was completed in around 2020. And then we won't go over each intersection, but you can kind of just see we have the reasons why we're recommending to remove them. And as I mentioned, the majority of them, we're just no longer seeing the PM kind of peak volumes that we did at one time see. So, and from that, if we can go.
And Jeff, you had, Harrison, you have one project removal again from, this is Highway 99, Northeast 99th Street, that was completed in 2021. And then I believe 92nd, 239, that is now within the Battleground city limits. Just, and then the other ones were just because we no longer meet warrants terms of peak hours, right?
Correct.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Real quick, could you explain to me what was determined that pink warrant 3 may not be met? What does that mean?
So
You might have said it before, but I just didn't understand.
yeah, sorry. So for what we're kind of seeing is basically the traffic volumes or the amount of trips at each intersection. The warrant 3 is kind of from the MUTCD traffic manual. There's a number of warrants that might indicate when you would signalized and unsignalized intersection. So, and I forgot to preface that these are all unsignalized intersections right now. So like whenever, yeah, basically, it's just not moving cars fast enough through the intersection. That's when you would want to.
So when it says warrant 3,
Mhm.
is that usually something you signal or you don't signal?
So in that traffic manual,
Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Or
yeah, I think there might be up to either 7 or I think there are multiple warrants that could maybe signal that you would need signalization at an intersection. And warrant 3 is related to peak hour volumes. Yeah, sorry, it's very.
Okay, just to clarify.
Sure.
My non-engineer stuff. So warrant 3, it's operating good and it doesn't warrant any action, I guess.
Sure. Warrant 3 is, let's see here. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. So each warrant is basically saying like, oh, this criteria has been met. And that's when we would consider a signal at each intersection. And the way that's phrased in the traffic manual, warrant 3, or you can just say like, it's the third criteria. And really, you don't have to meet every single criteria. It's just one of the criteria has to be met. Yeah, and then for this analysis, that's just the criteria that our consultant looked at to identify intersections. Yeah. And I can make sure to maybe provide maybe a little bit better definition in writing and send it out as well. Yeah.
I'm looking for the elevator conversation level to the contractor. Like it's just kind of like it's working good, so we're not touching it. Yeah, that's the.
We'll make you an engineer.
All right. Let's see here. Okay, so then we just briefly touched on some of the changes that you'll see from the existing CFP project list. For the proposed CFP for 2025 to 2045, we're recommending to add 3 large capital projects. And I guess to that, I'll also just note a caveat. There are some additional potential large capital projects that are listed in the regional and partnership project section on page 22. These are, again, projects where we're seeing some type of need of improvements. However, they are dependent on WashDOT completing one of their planned projects or just projects where we'll have to coordinate with WashDOT to even see if a project is even possible. So we'll just need permission if we're kind of making any changes to basically their facilities. And then we will be, right now, we're recommending to add about 20 new intersection projects. So just a little bit of shuffling with the intersections. The biggest change that you'll see in the proposed CFP project list is the inclusion of standalone active transportation projects. This is a result of new GMA requirements that came out of House Bill 1181 back in 2023. During, I think our last work session, we kind of went over some of those new requirements, which included establishing the multimodal level of service standards with kind of separate level of service standards for active transportation facilities. And then kind of in addition to that, what we are also recommending to add 8 standalone safety related projects. And these projects were identified through the county's 2025 local road and safety plan that was developed as part of a process with RTC. And then, as I kind of alluded to earlier, there's a section of regional and partnership projects, most of which, if not all, are new projects. And we'll kind of review that a little bit more in a later slide. So next slide, please. Let's see here. So in addition to kind of the overall changes in the number of projects, we also wanted to briefly touch on some of the overall changes you'll see throughout the CFP. So the first major change is we'll be breaking up the different projects into general categories. So we'll have a large capital project category, which is really your traditional CFP project that you've seen in the past. And those kind of involve constructing a new road or reconstructing a current one to add vehicle capacity. The active transportation projects highlight kind of just corridors where improvements are needed, basically for pedestrian and bicyclist and those related facilities. And then the safety projects are improvements or countermeasures to address existing safety concerns. And the regional and partnership projects are projects that involve close coordination with other jurisdictions, agencies. And for this category, you will see a lot of WashDOT projects. So we have a couple of corridors and a lot of intersections. Per GMA, we're required to document all of our impact or the impact of our growth and how, required to document the impact of our growth on state facilities. While we document those impacts of the state, there isn't necessarily a commitment from WashDOT to make those improvements. So we have to just continue to coordinate with them. And for them, their funding is directly allocated from the state legislature. So we noted that to council yesterday, and whenever they kind of meet with the Southwest delegation, we just kind of wanted to highlight that for them as well. So, and then another major change you'll see kind of is the inclusion of project descriptions throughout. So if you look at the project list in Appendix A from the 2026 capital comp plan, it really only includes project locations, project limits, and the cost estimates. And our goal with including these project descriptions and this version of the CFP is to clearly document our assumptions and be more transparent with kind of what type of improvements to expect at each location. And kind of lastly for this slide, for the intersection control types, which you'll see within the large capital project section, we went through the exercise with our Public Works Department to distinguish where we're likely to consider a roundabout intersection improvement versus a traffic signal. And that's really kind of based off of current conditions in the context of the roadway. And I will say kind of while we're anticipating what type of control type we would construct at each intersection, really at the project level, they would need to do an independent intersection control evaluation to determine the best type of control. So, and we're ready for the next slide.
Harrison, could you clarify on the project type? Some of them list as existing, some are new, and some are included in the TIP. Can you
Yeah.
just clarify the existing and the new.
Sure. So the existing one are the projects that are currently listed in the transportation CFP. And so like the ones that have the 26 to 31 tip, those are also in the CFP, but those have been obligated in the 6-year plan already. So we didn't change the project descriptions for those. The project descriptions for the tip projects, we just kind of carried over. Unless, let's see here, there were some that we did modify, like we did modify some project limits for like 72nd Avenue and Northwest Lakeshore. And we did actually change those project descriptions because even though they're in the 6-year tip, they're kind of on the back end of it. So they haven't really done, they might be in preliminary like scoping, but like the project hasn't started too much. So, and then, yeah, so the existing are the ones in the current CFP. And then the 3 new ones are the ones that we're proposing as part of this comp plan update.
And then
On
just
page
to
4.
clarify for the partnership
Yes.
road projects. So that's not obligating the county really to anything. That's just more identifying areas that probably have like a level of service fail.
Yeah,
Which
so-
won't get sent back down here.
So on this page, if you go to page 22, where that kind of starts, so I tried to provide a little bit of a kind of a summary that we're probably, a summary on page 21, which kind of goes into describing those projects. But yeah, that's a really great question. So like I mentioned, GMA requires us to document all of our impacts to state facilities. And I think that really helps them in their planning efforts because, the way that, GMA works, everyone's on a different timeline. So I'm sure that the state's kind of tracking everyone's comp plan and trying to pick up, where they might need to start looking for future improvements. So we document it for them. We've had coordination meetings with WashDOT. And yeah, it's not committing us to anything at this time. Yeah, and for the state, for them to kind of get the directive to work on any of these projects, it has to come directly from the state legislature. And we can work with them sometimes to get funding through like our Southwest Washington RTC, which is our MPO, just by like coordinating to apply for grants. But beyond that, all of their funding comes from, the state legislature. And I think on there's the 6th column, we try to indicate which ones we'll include in our funding analysis. But if it's no, it really means, that funding is going to have to come from somewhere, but we don't really know where. Okay. Okay, so I think we're on the active transportation slide. So we did want to spend some additional time just talking about these projects since these are relatively new for the CFP. So these projects reflect corridors that have been identified as needing additional improvements for active transportation users. With the proposed multimodal level of service standards, we are proposing facilities that would be low stress and comfortable to use for most adults. There's a lot of information in this table, which we are probably going to modify and maybe take some information out for the actual adopted version. But the kind of important columns that we did want to note is the proposed bicycle facility column, the column that kind of documents the estimated linear feet of missing sidewalk for each corridor, and then the column that provides the count of potential new pedestrian crossings for each corridor. And that that is an analysis that we did kind of using the using a built out scenario of the land use map. And yeah, and I will just note with this slide, as we've been going through the process of developing our transportation CFP, we've been working really closely with our Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. So they've been working on a number of recommendations, and we'll be working with them to document those and send them for your consideration during the adoption process. And we can go on to the next one.
Harrison, Brian here.
Yeah.
On the proposed crossing treatment types, they're letters. Are those letters something that's part of the ITE trip manual too, or is it just a county
Let me,
lettering system?
Jeff, is it okay if I take over the screen for a little bit? So this comes directly out of our, the county has their own pedestrian treatment policy. Let me just, it's on our Public Works website. So let me just try to pull that up really quick. So that's kind of based off of this selection table. And this is the legend for kind of what each one of those mean. So A is usually your kind of marked painted crossing, and then E would be just like your hybrid or kind of hawk signals where you have to go and push the button and then the crosswalk works for you. And I can also send out a link to this as well if you would like to have access to this.
I don't know if it's necessary. I was just kind of curious the criteria, and if it's already in the county manual, we can go find it.
Okay.
Thanks. I don't think you need to add it. Just more like understand now how the process works.
Sure. Okay. I'm going to send it back over to you, Jeff. All right, and then, sorry. Okay, and then for the last slide for tonight, we just wanted to review kind of the approach that we plan to use to prioritize the project list in front of you today. So we've gone through the process of developing an evaluation framework based on the proposed policies that we brought forward. I believe that was probably in October 2025. And really the framework that we've kind of looked at will be used to measure how well the investment in each project will help advance the overall goals and policies of the comp plan. And so we provided the proposed, as I mentioned, we provided the proposed goals last year in October. And kind of after making those proposed changes, we went through an exercise to identify the kind of to identify policies and themes kind of within our policies that could potentially be measured. From those policies and themes, we identified roughly 11 criteria, which are listed in the slide in front of you. The criteria group to the left, you will see they tie directly back to one of the transportation elements 10 goals. And you'll also find that if you would to reference those proposed goals and policies, that the language that we use for the criteria are either very similar or if not word for word from an existing or proposed policy. And kind of once we get our finalized project list, we will use these criteria to place projects into generalized buckets. So either a low, medium, or high priority. And then that priority scheme will be meant to guide really the timing of future implementation and when a project might be considered for inclusion in the TIP. And we're aiming to have those kind of initial results of the prioritization for you all, I believe at the July 16th. I think you have a hearing, but we're going to do a work session right beforehand to do that. Yeah.
Okay, how has the I-5 bridge replacement impacted the county and the work that you're doing here? I don't see it on the list anywhere.
Right. So our list only kind of comprises of facilities within the county's jurisdiction. So that project is outside of our jurisdiction, so we don't really look at it.
So they're not at your door asking for funding or criteria to have the county work with them?
This is Oliver. The county have always supported the project, but it's not in our jurisdiction. We are working with the city through RTC and talking to folks in Congress to help in the funding, but again, it's not in our jurisdiction to be involved in it, but we are providing support. That is the council that represent the county as a whole. So, but again, primary concern for the county now is just the improvement that been on the books for 179 interchange. That's a high priority for the council. It doesn't mean the replacement of the bridge isn't, but we are providing from the council support to see that be completed.
Kind of random question here. Is there a preference now? We see a lot of the roundabouts versus signalized intersections. Is the roundabout tends to be the preferred alternative if you can do that versus the signal? Is that a cost safety thing or what is the, yeah?
Yeah, I would say we're starting to see this shift towards roundabouts. I think at the state level, like WashDOT, they've even implemented a roundabout first policy where they consider roundabouts first before they consider really any other control type. And I think mostly it's the safety components to them. I think when we can share out more information about it, but there's a lot less opportunities for crash types that lead to like serious and fatal crashes when you have roundabouts versus signals. I think it's really the T collisions that have, right. And so really it's really the safety benefit. And then long-term maintenance costs are a lot less than traffic signals as well. So.
Did they move traffic better? There are some studies that have shown that it moves traffic much better in terms of traffic flow. You don't have to sit and wait for 2 seconds, 5 seconds, or whatever. You yield and you proceed, and it's more efficient. There've been transportation studies that have shown its safety, flow of traffic, that all those are the benefit. And as Harrison mentioned, maintenance. You've been in a situation where the power goes off and the light just on intersection just start messing up and you can sit there for hours, or some that are not timed properly. You can sit there longer, wondering when would the light turn green. Yeah, but for roundabouts, for the safety and continuation of movement, those are some of the benefits.
Yeah, Harrison, I have a question in regard to the list that you provided. All of the large capital projects, are all of these as a result of alternative 2?
So as we mentioned, the only ones that we're kind of recommending to add that that aren't already on our existing CFP project list would be on page 4. So those are the new projects that we're seeing.
So
Sorry, the 3 road segments. But we're seeing some new intersections that you can see in the intersection.
Okay, but then I guess what I'm clarifying then is a lot of this is rolled over from the previous comp plan. So this is stuff that didn't get done in the
course.
previous 6 years.
Yes.
How are we prioritizing that stuff?
That's a really great question. So right now, a lot of that is done at the 6-year plan or the 6-year program level. So the 6-year tip, it has its prioritization scheme within that document. So we can also forward that as well. And so what they've done in the past is really they've taken all the CFP projects and they score it and they determine really what projects get selected for the 6-year plan. But we just have a lot more projects now to consider. And so we're now recommending that we do like a very general prioritization for the 20-year plan that they can use as like a
Guide.
as a guide for the 6-year plan. So my thought process would be they would maybe take our like high priority bucket and then prioritize those to see which ones end up in the 6-year plan for the most part.
All right, let me process that for a second.
Sure.
So we have a list that didn't make the prioritization the last 6 years.
Mhm.
And now they're going to go into a bucket and they may get prioritized in the next 6 years, but something else isn't. Your recommendation about where it fits in that prioritization, is there a way for the public to understand that prioritization or the planning commission to understand that prioritization? Because I think right now, when we look at choices that we make in regard to alternative 2 and where we've chosen to go ahead and grow, or where the county has said they want to increase density, it feels like we should have a connection with where these capital projects are or are not going to happen. And if realistically everything that's in this new bucket is not by default going to get done, it's going to be some will get done and some don't. I think that's an important component for both the public and us as we deliberate to have a better understanding. So I don't know whether you have the ability to include that prioritization. If not, you should at least give us some understanding of how the prioritization criteria is laid out. And so we may have some input about what we think should float to the top and what can sink down. But obviously, you've got more in here than we're going to be able to accomplish. I mean, your list of intersections doesn't even look like a 20-year plan.
That is true. There's always some of us that do this have always argued that you don't get the 20-year project list completed within the 20-year planning horizon. That's not new and it's not editorial, but some have argued that what we have is a rolling 20, and you have these projects. Some of them are not completed. You begin the next plan update and you still carry some of the projects that have not been completed, but they're still within the urban growth boundary. What happens is that when Public Works, they draw from the 20-year list to prepare their 6 years tip, and they come to you and they do their own prioritization. They include safety, they include economic development, they include other criteria in order to drum up and prioritize their 6-year list. I will also say that in some cases, either due to funding or other costs, some of those don't get constructed in the 6 years. You roll over in the next one. That's why you see some of these, those that have been completed coming online or being checked off slowly because of that cost and because of other issues. I think last time we were here, I believe it was one of my staff that said, in terms of funding, when was the last time that he answered raised property tax for those funds? You're going to hear from Public Works in the future that the road fund is really going down. So the same is true for state funding on transportation. Planning Commissioner Ron, you've been here for some time now. You've seen how the state have moved the timeline for the completion of the 179 interchange. It's not just by design, it's just that the funding is in there. I think my understanding now is like 2031. Yeah, so. Yeah, but that's why our council is really working with our state legislators or representatives to put for funding of that interchange. Because it will go along and other projects. And some comes also, like staff indicated, where we partner with through RTC, go after grants from the federal government. Infrastructure. It doesn't happen quickly, and the cost continues to go up. So I'm not downplaying what you're saying, but that's just the reality. Public Works do bill from a 20-year list, and sometimes it depends on where growth is occurring and where some of the capacity is in there, and they may just direct either widening or making improvement to create some capacity in various roadways. That's how sometimes it's reactive, and sometimes, you get, heavy rain and some road that you doesn't expect get washed out. You go fix that quickly. And those are some of the things that are happening. I'm not making an excuse, but it's just reality. But when they come before you during the tip, I'm sure they're going to come before you in October. I believe it's in October. Is that in October?
The 6-year
The-
tip.
The work session is on September 17th and the hearing is on October 1st.
So you will have opportunity to also ask them, how do they prioritize those lists that come off of this and put it on the 6 year?
Okay, I understand that. I think the Planning Commission has, basically approved the tip as described by Public Works, season after season. What I don't think is apparent to everybody is that how much doesn't actually end up getting funded and done.
Yes. I agree.
And I think we need to be a lot more clear about, what we're asking for versus what we can fund. And out of that, what actually gets done within the 6-year horizon. There's a public misperception, I think, that when we go and we do this comp plan, there's the terminology of concurrency that people think that puts them in a 6-year window for getting those improvements. And they're not getting those improvements.
No, you're right. And, we had this conversation with Planning Commission and our council. For example, I'll use the example of when we lifted the urban holding for 179, we were saying it was premature. Some were saying that had been in urban holding for 20 years, but we identified that the infrastructure isn't there. That's why we put it in urban holding. And, you can make a case by the law that when it says that the project is reasonably funded, you've identified all your sources of how you're going to fund that, including impact fees. Remember, the property owners were assessed a much higher impact fee for the 179. Those were how we came up with whether the infrastructure out there is reasonably funded. That's one thing we can check off, but it doesn't come in. Because the only time the impact fee or whatever that surcharge you can collect it is when you come for building permit. So there is a time, like I agree with you, that the public doesn't get that. And it is when some of us sound the alarm, it's not that you're anti-growth or you don't want to expand the urban growth boundary, but it's just a realization that it comes with some kind of a cost that folks needs to know.
Any other
That's all-
questions?
That's all we have before we go to the next slide. You're done, right? Okay.
Okay, any other questions online? Okay, with that said, we have any other comments or the upcoming, you want to go to that, Oliver?
Yes.
Okay.
Go to the next slide. So, planning commissioners, this is your upcoming work session and hearing schedule. As staff have indicated, we'll be having a work session and a hearing. The work session will be on the financing side of the transportation list. Hopefully, we'll get that from our consultant and share that with you, both costs and revenue, so you can see that. If we are short, we'll share that information with you. We will share with you other capital facilities, including the capital facilities financial plan. That document is the document that shows how we are going to pay in the first 6 years various components of the comp plan, stormwater, parks, transportation, county buildings, all those in the first 6 years. That's what we are supposed to show that we have the funding to accommodate. So you will see those, plus any of the, I don't know whether other agencies like Clark Regional, whether they will be able to submit their CFP to us by that work session. If not, you will get it before your hearing. On the 16th, as staff indicated, you will be having a hearing on both the school and the fire impact fees. So all the information is now posted on your Planning Commission website, all the capital facilities plans submitted by the school districts and the fire districts. Then on July 30th, we'll have another continuation of the transportation financial work, assuming we don't have that on the 16th, and then any other information on the capital facilities to support the preferred plan and other associated appendices to the comp plan. And your work session will be August 6th. This will be all the comp plan text, the mapping, code changes as proposed to support the plan. And then we'll have your hearing on August 20th. The same information, you've been seeing the chapters in this form. We will get you the overall document. That's why we're coming to you gradually to familiarize you with each chapter. I think now with the addition of the climate bill, we have like 15 or 16 chapters that make up the overall comprehensive plan document. And then you deliberate on, if you don't deliberate on the 20th, we make it available on September 3rd for you to deliberate and make your recommendation to the council. That's why I was saying earlier, no breaks for you for now. But I will give you 1 month during December.
Can we get all this information put on our calendar online?
Yes, we can, Jeff, you can post this on Planning Commission webpage, okay, so that they see this upcoming work session and hearings. But I believe for the 16th, everything is there now. If you go to the our website, you can see all the school impact fees and fire. We will post things as they become available so that you can see them. But this date we will add so the public also know when you're having work session and hearings coming up. So these are the next steps in terms of the upcoming work sessions. We are doing the same thing, if I may add, with council. We've gone to the council beginning June 10th to review the entire chapters as you are. The last time was it on Wednesday? We had another work session with council to review various chapters. Same thing we're doing, the same information. So they're seeing it as you are seeing it and as we are preparing it. So they're getting the same information and they're asking us questions and we tell them it's all draft and you will be the one making recommendation to them, hear from the public, and we making notes. You're entitled to make recommendation, change the language, and we'll take that recommendation to council. What I was saying earlier is that when a task force prepares a recommendation, staff don't change it because it then becomes staff driven. That I try to avoid, and I tell my staff to avoid doing so until it comes to you and the public had the opportunity to weigh in, as well as those that worked on the project. You did receive a letter from the folks that worked on the climate bill, telling you how it was difficult, but through consensus, they agreed on the language. And they sent the same letter to our council. So I'll stop there. This will be posted on your webpage so that you know, but bear with me. I have our legal counsel here. You know that we have been found to be out of compliance, but we are using this because the council approved what I would call a schedule for us to complete this by October. Our goal is to do our best to come into compliance and at the same time show the growth board the progress we are making, good effort to come into compliance. If we don't have anything to show, we are not making progress. This is what we are doing to help them, give us some break. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Okay, anything else for the good of the order? Yes, Mr. Fadness.
So I do have a question for Oliver. Just looking forward to the hearing. Could you elaborate what you're kind of looking for, what our recommendation is going to look like? Are we looking to make a recommendation on the actual CFPs, or is it just the fees, the impact fees associated?
We are looking on the impact fees, and for example, I'm looking for a recommendation to council to approve because you have reviewed the capital facilities submitted by the school district. They followed the formula, and they went through the school board, and the school board was the one that made this recommendation. This is how it's been done. They've gone through their own process. They make the recommendation to you, and then you review that and agreed and forward your recommendation to council. The same will be true for all other capital facilities plan that are coming before you. As I mentioned, the same preferred alternative that the council advanced, that is the same information we provided to Clark Regional, for example. They will use that to assess how they're going to support the preferred plan. So when you review their CFP, that is based on the preferred. CUP and other various partners are also reviewing the information, and staff are working with various other agencies for them to show us how they're going to support the plan that, both you and the council have advanced as the preferred. That is how this is all coming to you. So I'm looking for a recommendation from the Planning Commission to council. One area that I know have been an issue, and I think Planning Commissioner Haroon touched upon it, is when we're talking about affordable housing and all these impact fees and so forth, isn't that also contributing to the high cost of housing? Sure, but you look at it on the other side, it's only attributed to growth. You know, there's no other way you're going to parcel it. You know, the law requires you to, none of these funds are used to correct previous deficiencies. It's only attributed to new growth. So that's what I'll be looking forward to. As I said, for the fire districts, this is the first time they're asking the county to allow them to assess fire impact fee. And all of that is, in my opinion, and they will let you know, it's all also attributed to the growth that they're seeing. It's an honor, it's a very good area for folks to move into. So we are seeing growth, you know. So some of this is attributed to, and some in some cases, the public saying that you have the ability to use impact fee to help you in your financing of your capital. So even when we collect the fire impact fee, for example, just like the school, it's a pass through to those districts. It doesn't come to the county. The only thing that comes to the county is traffic and parks. That's it. In order to build community parks or neighborhood parks and then make road improvement, those are the two impacts that comes to the county as part of the private share. But school and fire will be directed to those districts to help them in dealing with impact to their particular districts.
Okay, thanks, Oliver. And then I just have one more general comment for my fellow commissioners. There was a public comment that came in regarding the school boundaries. And I don't know if you guys had a chance to see that. I would recommend you read through it. I think it's a really important issue, especially like in the 179th area and then East Vancouver as well, where it kind of talks about, because of the way the boundaries are set up right now, the growth is not happening where the schools are, creates a lot of extra trips that goes into transportation, also fees, everything like that. And so it's worth the read.
Yeah, thank you, Planning Commissioner Kyle. When I was doing this, we have wanted to make sure that the school district and some of its boundaries fits in within the given urban group. So you know, but when we tried that, we weren't successful because the school district boundaries were set not by counties but
State.
through the legislation. There was a time that I believe it was the center and
Richfield.
wanted to adjust their boundary. They couldn't. So, but it's a good comment. We see that, particularly the southern portion of Richfield School District. You can see a lot of growth in 179 impacting this school, Richfield School District, as well as Battleground, because that's where you see the construction out of 179 impacting those two school districts. Before, I used to go out and talk to the school district and identify what they call hotspots. Hotspots just mean where impacted the school district, how they plan for bus route and so forth. This conversation that impacted the school district, but they couldn't change their boundaries under the legislation.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Oliver.
I have one.
Go ahead.
We
Yes.
also got a
Brian?
public comment from a Christian Volk regarding zoning of childcare facilities. And he was pushing to open up light industrial buildings for childcare, which right now they're excluded, along with many other types of occupancies that would benefit from being in a light industrial building. because they're cheap, the least expensive of structures you can build, and the rent's cheap. But why would we have zoning at all if you could put any product in any building? And so, I don't know what process he spoke at the hearing, and then he sent the email out, and I don't know what process he needs to go through to even consider that, or I suppose staff would consider it, but it just seems like a stretch to let just one particular product into a light industrial zone when there's many others that have been pushing to get into that light industrial zone for as long as I've been in the county, 30 years.
Do you have other examples?
Churches in a lot of areas would like to be in light industrial, retail, but while light industrial does allow a certain amount of retail, it doesn't cover. It has to be an accessory use. Trips, parking. There's a lot.
A manner that we may not be able to manage in case of an accident, for example. So those are some of the issues that we consider when we try to provide a list of uses that are allowed in various districts.
I'd also throw out that right now in our community, and it's been ongoing for some time, light industrial buildings are in high demand from small businesses that provide employment. And yeah, you're right. Daycare and industrial uses aren't a good mix overall. And so I wouldn't recommend that we look at that any further. But I did want to make a comment about it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Thank you for all that showed up and testified and helped us out. With that said, we're adjourned.
Thank you.